Today's video is rarely talked about, but it can have one of the biggest impacts on your overall accuracy as both an archer and a bow hunter. It has everything to do with peep sight alignment, but more importantly, how you align it. I'm going to share with you 3 different ways of how to do this, and figuring out the best way for you could mean the difference of taking your shooting to the next level. So what is the best way to align your peep sight? With multiple ways to do this, some methods are more consistent than others, but it could depend on the application of what you're trying to do. One way to center your peep sight is by centering the very middle of the pin in the middle of your peep sight. This is how I was originally taught on how to center my peep, but let me tell you why I don't prefer to use this method. By centering the tiny little pin in the middle of our big peep sight, we have this little tiny dot in the middle of this big circle that is our peep. That makes it very difficult to get that aligned exactly the same every single time. As you know, archery is all about consistency, and when we're trying to center that little pin and the pin's always moving, and we're trying to keep the peep centered on the pin and the peep is always moving, it can be very hard to have those 2 variables moving at the same time while we're trying to aim and align on our target. This can result in a lot of inconsistencies with your shot overall. Since the pin is our only reference to how we're centering the peep sight with our sight, and the pin is so small, it can be really hard to get the feedback from where that little tiny pin is within the big circle of the peep to know if we're actually centering it the same shot to shot. Not only that, but it can change and differ quite a little bit depending on the lighting conditions, if it's full sun, shooting in the shade, or shooting in evening light. Now, if you shoot with this method and you find consistency and accuracy with this method, don't feel like you need to change. With that said, I do recommend giving these other 2 methods a try. It may just be the difference in your accuracy that you've been looking for. This leads us to our second way to align our peep sight, and that is by aligning the ring of our peep sight with the ring of our sight housing. Now, this is by far the most common method that I see people use to align and center their peep sight, but is it the best for your accuracy? In a hunting scenario, I do like this method. I have a big, clear sight picture. I can see all of my pins, I can see my level, and what I'm intending to aim at. Now, it's important that you use the right size peep for this method, as it is much better to change the actual peep size than it is to adjust your sight housing in or out. By sliding your sight housing in or sliding your sight housing out, it can actually change the forgiveness of your bow setup as it relates to basically torque tuning, but that is for an entirely another video. The correct alignment with this method is to be able to see your full sight housing ring with your peep sight ring aligned right over the top of it, so you can see all around the edges. Now, if your peep sight is too big and you have a light gap around the sight housing ring, this can be really hard to get the correct alignment, and overall could lead to a loss of consistency and a reduction in overall accuracy. If your peep sight is too small for this method, it could be cutting off part of your pins, part of your level, and really that could lead to some issues with your overall accuracy if you're not aligning your peep sight perfectly every single time. This leads me to the last method to center a peep sight, which is quite a bit different than you've probably heard, but it could be the most accurate way to do this based on your ability to keep it centered and keep it consistent. I do know some bow hunters that choose to utilize this method. However, it is much more common in target archery, as it allows you to aim better. Instead of centering your pin in the middle of the peep sight or centering your sight housing in the middle of the peep sight, you'll actually center your target in the middle of your peep sight. I know this sounds a bit different, but give it a thought. By centering your target in your peep sight position, you are essentially centering your end point position with your peep sight and not your pins or your sight housing that act as a middle point position of your aiming. Your target should not move while your sight housing does. This helps you stay centered on what you're aiming at and let your pin float comfortably over the middle. By doing this, you can focus more on hitting your spot instead of forcing your peep and sight to line up perfectly while also trying to aim and execute a clean shot at the exact same time. The first and the second method may take too much concentration, while this method may more easily allow you to accept your pin float, focus on your target, and have smoother execution with your shot. For this method, I do recommend using a smaller peep. something around 1/8 of an inch or smaller should be the appropriate size to utilize this method. With that said, if you do try this method, this could just be the shift that takes your shooting to the next level of accuracy that you're looking for. Whichever method you choose, it's important that you stick with just one, as if you're changing between all the 3 different methods, it will change your point of impact and you would have to adjust your sight for each method. We'd like to hear from you in the comments which method you prefer. I know there's a lot of very advanced archers and bow hunters that have shot for a lot more years than I have, and we'd love to hear your input. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And as always, we appreciate you guys following along, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.